Once again, I want us to look at control structures in JavaScript. Now, control structures are there to determine the flow of program execution. Now, when your program is executing, there is a certain order in which the codes or the statements are executed. Now, this order in which the statements are being executed is determined by the control structures. We normally have three major control structures. We have the sequential control structure, we also have the conditional control structure, and we also have the loops or iteration or repetition. Now, those are the three major types of control structures. Now, these control structures, as I said earlier, are very important in a programming language in that they determine the flow of program execution. So, because we are looking at JavaScript, so I want us to go deep into this. But before we do that, I just want to show you some of the control structures that we do have. Now, these are the type of control or the types of control structures that are there. They fall under the three categories I mentioned. So one is the sequential. Now, in sequential, the programs are or the program is executed in a certain order but in a sequential manner, because the program is executed in sequential manner because there is the way the codes have been written one after another. So there will be no branching. The program will just execute from the first statement to the last without branching or without facing any kind of condition. Now, when we are talking of conditional control structures, now this is where we have the if statement. No, if statement is normally a conditional statement. So when we are talking of conditional control structures, we include things like if statements or if control structures. We also have switch control structures. Now that is under conditional control structure. So here we have if, else, and switch case are typical examples of what we call conditional control structure. When we go down to the next type of control structure, which is the loop, we have these three. We have do while loop, and for loop. Those are the repetition control structures. So we are going to look at each one of them. So let us the while loop. Remember, while loop falls under the category I mentioned, and that category is called repetition or iteration or simply the loop. Now, in this control structure, the condition is predetermined, right? Or rather, it is preconditioned. Then the condition is evaluated, then a statement or statements are executed. And to determine when the program is going to stop, there must be what we call a counter variable. A counter variable keep on increasing or decreasing until the condition that is being evaluated evaluates to false, so that the program can exit the loop. So in my example, as you can see, or in my sample code, as you can see, we have a variable, and the name of this variable is counter, and this counter variable has been initialized to 1, and followed by now the while keyword, followed by the Boolean expression or the condition that is being tested. Now what happens here, while the counter is less or equal to 7, the following statement must be executed. Therefore, after this statement has been executed, when counter here is less or equals to 7, then after which this counter is being increased by 1. So this is how you can increase a variable, or you can increase the counter. So this counter variable is incremented by 1. So this one will be repeated at least 6 times until we end up with a figure that is greater than 7, which will be 8, and at that moment the program will stop executing. So we want to print out something like this on our browser. So we want to implement this code. So as you can see, we have the condition being tested there. Then we have the brackets. Then within the brackets, we have the statements that are being executed when this condition is false. And this is the end, and we have to write our codes within the script tag, as you can see, and this code must be embedded within HTML. So let's go ahead and look at this example and try our example. What I'm going to do, I'm going to write my codes here. So I'm going to erase this particular statement there. Then I'm going to have var. We have var counter is equal to 1. Then we are looking at while loop. So we do while. Now we put our counter is less or equals to 7, then the following statement must be executed. So we do document dot write. Okay. Then within the document dot write, we have quotation marks. Now within that quotation mark, we write what we want printed. So I'm going to have P, that is the paragraph command. Then I'm going to have here we're talking of font size. Let's see, font size, font size is equal to 1 then we want to concatenate this with another statement. So here is equal to the counter. So we want counter to be printed. The counter will determine the size of the font each time this thing is repeated. So we have the plus there. Okay. Then what next do I do next? So I do what do I do? I do this. Then I do that. Then I do greater than. Then I do HTML. We're talking of font size. Font size Okay, we close that, we write font size, then we close that, then we concatenate again with counter. So we say, we talk of counter, counter plus, okay, this an operator for concatenation, so we that plus symbol there, so we have the font, okay, let me just have font, and then we have the closing paragraph. Okay, then just a moment, okay, so I do my close the statement there. Okay, then I go to now the counter increment. Okay, then let me try out and see what will become of this statement. So let's save, then we go here and we click go live, then wait for the outcome. So we are still waiting for the our statement to be executed. So after being executed, we are able to see the result on the screen, as you can see. So this thing is repeated 7 times. Let's say 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. So it is repeated 7 times. So that's how we can use the while loop. Okay, now that is how the while loop works. Now going back to our notes, we have the other type of loop. We have the for loop. Now for loop is predetermined already. We know how many times the loop is supposed to repeat itself, or how many times a certain statement has to be repeated. So we already know that the loop is supposed to run this number of times. So this one is conditioned, or it is predetermined that at the end of the day the loop is supposed to execute how many times? A certain number of times. So in this regard, we have this. So and as you can see with this example, we don't have the counter being incremented outside, but it is within the for statement. It is part of the condition that is being evaluated. So here we have the variable counter, which is 1. As you can see, it is initialized to 1. The counter should be less or equals to 7, and after every statement is executed, the counter is incremented by 1, and then the following statement comes thereafter. So if we can go back and now write our command for the for loop, there's some things I'm going to copy, like this statement here. I'm going to copy it so that I don't repeat myself. So I'm going to write the for loop as follows. So I'm going to start with the keyword for. So I'm going to write with the keyword for, then have a bracket. Now within this keyword for, I'm going to have variable. I'm going to have a variable. I'm going to have a variable called I'm going to call it f counter. I'm going to call it f counter. F stand for 4, so don't worry where am I coming up, where am I getting that value. This is just my variable that I'm coming up with, so I'm going to put there f counter. So f counter should be less or equal to 7. You put a semicolon, then we increase the f counter, the f counter as such. So we have that. So, and therefore what do? We now go to the part where we want our statement to be executed. So let's see if it is going to work this way. Let's see where. So I'm going to bring this statement from where it is, and I'm going to place it here. Okay, so so for this one, these ones are going to change now to be f, and this one f. And let's see what we do have if we are going to have the same result. Okay, the same, it should be the same as the other one, because whatever we are printing is the same thing. But what I want you to take from this is the structure, how the structure of for loop is being crafted here. You have to see the distinction, the clear differences, and that is the reason as to why I'm even writing both of the structures here, so that you can have a picture or a glimpse of how the two are different from the other. Okay, so let's see what we have on our browser at the end of the day, if we are making progress or we are not. So as you can see, the second set is for the for loop. So the first one is for the while loop, and the second one is for the for loop. So this is how the thing work, and this is what is being displayed on the screen for you. For this particular loop, as you can see, there is a clear distinction between the two. As to, you see, this, we have the keyword while, and here we have the keyword for, and how the variable is being, or the expression is being evaluated is a bit different. And now that is how the for loop works. Okay, now next we want to look at a different we want to look at how the for loop is being I want to show you how the for loop is being defined. So I'll just go back here and scroll through the notes and come to this point. This is how the for loop has to be written. Now this is the syntax that you have to follow when you are defining or coming up with the for loop. It has to follow this order. Okay, you have to have the keyword for to tell the program that you are doing a for loop, then followed by the control variable name. Now the control variable name must be initialized to a certain number, certain value. Then we also have the loop condition, the loop continuation condition, right? So the counter variable is what we call counter in this context, and it is being initialized to 1. Then we have the loop continuation condition, which is counter less or equals to 7. Now this is what is being evaluated or tested, and after each time, or after whatever this statement or this counter is incremented by 1. So the final value of the control value for which the condition is true, right? Then this this one here is what they are referring to, the final value for which the 7 in this case is the final value of control value for which the condition is true, and this is the increment control variable, this one. So it is the one that controls the flow or the increment of the variable. So that is important to look at and getting to understand and to internalize the whole idea of for loop in this regard, because it is a very important type of control structure that we've got. Now moving on, we have to look at the flow chart. We have to look at the flow chart of this control structure, because without the flow chart we cannot fully understand. And plus, we all know that when writing programs, we normally use design tools such as flowcharts to write or to design the code. So when you are designing this code, there is a certain way you're supposed to represent your for loop in form of a flowchart, and this is how you are supposed to do it. Now if I scroll down and come to this flowchart, you are able to distinctively see the way the for loop should be crafted. Now you see we have the variable counter. Here. This variable counter is what determines the start of the execution. So it has been initialized 1. So establish the initial value of the control variable. So the initial value of the control variable in this case is counter. So the initial value has been assigned to 8 is 1. So the initial value that has been assigned to the variable is 1. So that determines this first instant the counter variable, or the program will start executing. Then we have the counter, what we determine if the value of the control variable has been reached. So this is where we compare the counter variable with another another number. Okay, so when that number is reached, the evaluation will turn to true. So we exit. So the execution stops. Okay, the loop stop right there. But as long as the condition is true, whatever condition that is appearing within this decision symbol is true, then these statements are executed, as you can remember. So when these statements are executed, now the counter has to be incremented so that we can reconsider the expression again and see whether the final value has been determined. So it is important and critical to understand the flow of the program. Remember, we said that when a program is executing, there is a certain way the commands are being executed. They are executed in a certain order. They are executed in a certain manner. Now the manner in which the conditions are being tested depend purely on the structure of the loop, but better still, we can say that the manner in which these statements are individually executed by the computer is determined by the control structure that are there. So we are looking at the for loop control structure, and you see there must be a way in which the loop stop, and for the loop to stop executing, there are a number of things that must be evaluated. Not only the Boolean expression being determined, but there must be a way in which the counter variable must be increased until a certain required number is reached. That's when the loop will stop. So in this context, we are able to clearly see how the control structure look like. So that is how you can use the for loop again. So this is another example. So in this example, the sum of even integers from 1 to 100 is what we want to see, if we can be able to sum up all the numbers from 2 to 100 and be able to display that on the screen as a number as they follow each other. So here we have sum of even integers from 2 to 100. So we need to write them in this write the for loop, as you can see. Then we have a variable called sum. Now this variable called sum is going to store to sum up every time a variable is incremented. It is going to sum up the values and compound them together and print them using this statement. Now if you come here, the increment is done by adding 2 to the number. So the numbers are incremented by 2 each time, and that is what this statement is saying. The number should go up to 100, not more than 100, and the starting or the initial value is 2. And now this is the statement that is able to sum up the answer. Then after the sum up the numbers or add the number, and then store the final value in sum, and this is what we've got. Okay, so let's see whether we can be able to do this. So let's look at this one more example before we call it a day. So I'm still going to use the for loop as it is, but I'm going to change a few things. I'm going to tweak a few things so that it reflects what I'm doing. Remember, programming is about creativity and about how you're thinking and how you want to solve a problem. So it is important when you are coding, have it in your mind that your coding should be creative, and you should be able to work creatively to solve a problem. Now in this case, I want to print the numbers. I want to add the numbers from 2 to 100, and the numbers should be incremented by 2 each time. Then thereafter, I would want to print the sum. Each time I add, I want the sum be printed on the screen. So I'm going to have variable, call it sum, and it is initialized to 0. Okay. Then here I'm going to have a variable. I'm going to call it number. Now here I'm not going to have 2, but I'm not going to have 1, but I'm going to have 2. This 7, I'm going to replace it by 100 because I want the thing to go up to 100. And this one I'm going to do it as this. I'm going to see number plus equal to 2. Okay, so I'm going to have number. Okay, so what do I want printed? It is going to appear in here. Okay, so I'm going to erase whatever I have in there, then I replace it with, let's say they're talking of big. Okay, they're going to write here the sum of the even integers, the sum of even integers, So I come here, write the concatenation symbol, then I open another quotation mark and write something inside from 2 to 100, from 2 to 100 is, then after that I add another concatenation symbol and write sum, and add another concatenation symbol. Okay, then let me just separate these things. Sorry, let me separate this. Then come here, I do that and close big inside, and now I hope I'm going to also have inside here, before I print out, I'm going to write sum plus equal to number, or you see the number, then we terminate that statement, then we save. Okay, so if we go to our browser, let's see what we've got. Let's see what we got in our browser. Okay, this we need to restart our server. I'm going back here. What is it that we've done wrong? Let's see. Probably there may be something that we've done wrong. All right, the reason is here. So this one should not be f counter, it should be number. Yeah, so that's where we went wrong, because I'd already used that. So let's see and go to, so it's always good to look at your numbers and see whether you are doing the right thing, or look at your code once more to counter check whether whatever you're doing is right. Okay, our script is unresponsive. Okay, let's go back and let's go back and look at our code. There we go. Okay, let's okay, then we click go live. Okay, and see whether our code is going to happen. Good. All right, so the numbers are being printed but not in a line, so our code is working. So as you can see, this is what we are getting at the end of the day. So what if we go back to our code and try to do something and see whether it will be able to bring. So instead of using right, we do right line. Okay, and see whether it is going to behave this time. Okay, it is behaving but not in a manner that we want. Okay, let's see. Okay, so this thing is being printed, but there are so many we are doing so many things, so you might get confused in the middle of all that. So let's try a way of reducing this number and see what happens. Okay, let's then let's go live again. Okay, good. So that is how it works, but let me do some changes in our code so that we are able to get something that we are able to relate with. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove this. I'm going to remove this. Then here I'm going to write number. Okay, needs to see which number are we adding, and then here okay, we write sum is equal to okay, we save this and see what we've got at the end of the day, something that you can relate with and get to see the result. Yeah, so it is able to print. As you can see, it is able to add the values, and it is actually printing the numbers. So that is how you can be able to work with the for loop. So next time we will look at the other types of loop, but in the meantime, thank you for joining me. See you next time.